comes in and steals the fucking show. Like a goddamn boss. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, starting with the Game of Thrones and almost ending a Game of Thrones. As always, I am one of your co-hosts, Zach, and sitting next to me here is
me.
My co-host, Nate.
That's me.
That's you.
Nate.
Me.
I'm me.
Me.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you joined us last episode,
We were reading Arya 5.
Ned died.
Yeah, well, I mean, duh.
Duh.
But if you didn't join us, we're full spoiler reread. So,
Oh, yeah.
Ned's dead,
Hey.
by the way. Whatever.
Yeah, Arya got to witness it and witness her sister up there as well, and sort of the reaction of the smaller folk of the crowd. And so it was interesting, and now we're going to get the fallout from that as the dominoes really start to tip
We're going to
here.
get some weird pre-fallout, actually.
Well, yeah, a little bit
But,
of pre-fallout.
but the fallout.
And so, yeah, if you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. We're going to jump right into it because I'm really excited about this chapter today.
So where was Bran last we saw him?
Bran.
That's a toughie.
Yeah, him and Osha were outside at the Godswood with naked Hodor stumbling around.
Talking about listening to the
God's answering his prayers.
Yeah, cool. So this time we open and...
Well, we're reading Bran 7. I don't know if we said Bran 7.
Yeah, Bran 6 was the one we were just talking about. But
yeah,
Bran 7. I think we've said it a few times now.
Yeah,
Bran 7. Let's say it a few more.
Bran 7, Bran 7, Bran 7.
In case you weren't sure. So they opened this chapter in Bran, as well as Maester Luwin and Summer are all atop of the wall. A wall, not the wall.
Luwin's turret. The balcony of Luwin's turret.
And they're watching the new men train down in the yard, being trained by Ser Rodrik, who has now arrived from being sent... was he at White Harbor and directly from White Harbor to...
Yeah,
by
he
Lady
left from White
Catelyn.
Harbor.
And so he's here training fresh recruits.
The young boys, the youngins.
Yeah.
And Bran notes that they don't fight very well. And Luwin's not really watching. He's like making notes through his mirror's lens. He's more interested and kind of gives half answers to Bran through this whole conversation. But yeah, Luwin agrees that they're nothing really to fight. But he is noting the position of the comet that hung low in the sky. Oh, yeah, I turned away, I guess, huh?
So is this our first mention of the comet?
This, I believe, is the first mention of the comet proper.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, that's interesting. As we know, the comet's an odd thing in this book.
Because it very well could just be a comet.
Because it very well could just be a comet, but it represents and symbolizes so many different things to so many different people, and so it becomes a game of who's correct.
So collectively, it seems to represent magic coming back in the world of some sort, whether that be dragons, whether that be returning power to the White Walkers, whether that be, it could be anything. More power to R'hllor and his fires and the visions and the Red Priest. It could be anything, but it's neat that this Maester of the Citadel is the one that we get it from first.
Yeah, noting its position and tracking it across the sky. And Luwin notes that Ser Rodrik had the right of it, though, since most of the seasoned men went with Father and Robb down south, and so they needed to train new men to man the walls here. They needed to rebuild up their garrison here at Winterfell, so they had defenses, and really, it's just prudence, especially in this world. You want to have a house garrison that knows what the fuck they're doing.
Somebody when if they happen to have to come all the way back here. So Bran thinks about how if he had his legs working, he would be able to beat all of them down there.
Yeah.
And he thinks about the last time that he fought. And it was when Robert was up there in the north, and he knocked Tommen down at least 100 times. Mm-hmm. So he was just beating up on poor little Tommen, who just wanted to go cuddle with some kittens.
Well, I mean...
Fuck him.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess, geez Louise. But it is hilarious. I honestly think that at this point, if his legs hadn't fallen, he hadn't fallen and then his legs had problems, he would have kept training, and he would have gotten good enough to where he would have been better than them.
I think he would have gotten good, but I would have liked to have seen Bran in this yard with, he said they were like 18, 17.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Bran would have gotten his ass kicked. He is like an 8-year-old kid. He wasn't holding his own. He's being just resentful because and spiteful he can't be down as shit.
There, yeah.
And so he also begins mentioning to Luwin about learning to fight with a poleaxe atop Hodor's shoulders. And
so, this shit had some subtle little neat things, I think.
Well, yeah, because Bran also mentions that there was a knight once who was blind, but who fought with a staff that had 2 blades on each end.
Yeah, so before we get to Simeon Star Eyes, he had said, because he said Hodor can be his legs, and together they can fight as one knight. And he says, we could be a knight together. And Maester Luwin says, when a man fights, his arms and legs and thoughts must be as one. And we know that eventually he's going to warg into his thoughts and take control of his body and start fighting off some shit with Hodor as his little
Rock'em Sock'em robot.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was neat that he's saying that, no, you would have to be able to control his mind, his body, his thoughts, not just part you and part him.
So we get, and I was just calling him Simon Star Eyes, but I guess Simeon works too.
I don't know. Whatever.
However you want to pronounce it. He
was a blind knight. And he had put the I don't remember what kind of gem.
Star sapphires.
Yeah, into his sockets, it was rumored.
Yeah, the singers say, but that's only a story, Bran. You must learn to put those dreams aside, as they will only break your heart.
So, a few things about Simeon there. I feel like he's, just like a lot of the Age of Heroes people, I think he exists.
I think he's my fucking spirit animal. Yeah, I love him.
He's a fucking badass.
He reminds me of Oberyn, but he's got sapphires for eyes.
I was wondering if maybe he might not make an appearance in the Game of Thrones prequel show that's going on in the Age of Heroes. And I thought that'd be pretty neat if they get the right person to play him.
I would do disgusting things to the television if they do that.
But yeah, I really, really like the idea of him. And but the idea of dreams makes Bran remember. But I just don't know that this is he just seems like a legit person to me, this Simeon Star Eyes.
I think
way
he was
more
a legit
than he was given credit for by Luwin.
Bran mentions his dreams, that he dreamed with the 3-eyed crow last night, that he had led Bran down to the crypts and father was there. And we talked, and he was sad. And Luwin, kind of half paying attention, asks, why was that? And Bran says, something to do with Jon, I think. This dream had been deeply disturbing, more so than any other crow dream before it.
Now, I feel, and I'm pretty sure you probably would agree, by the end of the chapter, we have a fairly strong idea of what the conversation was between the two. If not, I'll point out where I feel like that stuff is found. But I feel like we know, for the most part, what these two spoke about. And because it says that it's deeply disturbing. So he's kind of like, fuck, man.
Yeah, the deeply disturbing is intriguing in that, definitely.
But, I think that the shared vision with Rickon and Bran kind of will give us some context along with a few lines. So, we're full spoiler, but we're going to keep it in order because fucking wait.
Yeah. So,
patience.
Bran, the next interesting point Bran brings up is that Hodor won't go down into the crypts, as Bran had tried to have Hodor bring him there after breakfast. But Luwin's only half listening at this point, and Bran asks, what did you say? And Bran says, when I first woke, I told him to take me down to see if father was truly there. Got to the top step, but he wouldn't go down any further. And he says, in the dream, I flew down with the crow, but I can't fly when I'm awake.
Yeah. And then he says that he had even considered smacking Hodor in the back of the head to get him to go down.
So we're now, and I didn't realize it was in this chapter, but this is one of the issues I start to have with Bran, is we learn in a couple books how much it's considered north of the Wall an abomination to warg into somebody else and control them. And Bran does it pretty much without thought for Hodor at all. And so it really starts to bother me with Bran. I think that's
it kind of starts making sense here, though.
It does and it doesn't. It does. You're right. But this behavior, this swatting him like a mule, I am so glad Luwin puts him in his place, because it becomes sketchy. I feel like that's going to become one of Bran's biggest flaws, is this whimsical devil may care attitude about his abilities that's gonna, as we know from the show, destroys Hodor's mind. And so I think obviously in the book I think it'll be much more impactful, But I think this is where it starts, is this Hodor's not doing what he wants and going where he wants, so fucking swat him like a mule.
Yeah,
and
he's putting these people on a different level than he's on.
They're tools to him, essentially. And Luwin corrects him, Hodor is not a mule to be beaten when he doesn't. He is a man, so...
And so he asked Bran, why are you even trying to go to the crypts? Like, you had a dream. And he was like, I've been telling you to go see Father.
Bran, you sweet child, you patronizing fuck. Lord Eddard will sit below the stone with all the Stark kings back in the north. The Stark kings back to the kings of the north. But that won't be for many years yet. Your father is a prisoner in King's Landing. You'll not find him in the crypts.
So I know that's clearly the... He's going to eat his fucking words here at the end.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's almost a false hint where it's going to be a while before Ned's bones get returned to King's Landing.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And so I almost feel like that's kind of more of a reference to that as opposed to, he dies at the end. He's dead. Like, you're going to find out at the end of the chapter. But, like, it's more of a, but he's not going to get back to his home crypts.
I really like what Martin does here, and it reminds me a lot of Breaking Bad, if you've seen Breaking Bad, where... we're kind of, just based on association and point of view and perspective, we're kind of forced to dislike Luwin because he's an obstacle to Bran in embracing these dreams and taking them as fact and heeding these warnings. And so, but Luwin is acting how any reasonable adult would. And,
so he's kind of like a Skylar, you mean?
Exactly, where we kind of are like, fuck you, Luwin. Like, let Bran explain his dream. But in reality...
I do it to Jude.
You do it to yourself,
It would just be like if all of a sudden Jude's like, takes me to fucking Narnia. And he's like, see?
Yeah, exactly.
See? Like
you're not supposed to believe it. Luwin is acting rationally. And it's in this trying time. His mother, his brother, his father,
and
all
so you're
just
gonna
went
cop
off.
it all off to stress.
And so, like, but Martin twists it because we're reading it from Bran. We get Bran's frustration. We trust Bran. So we're like, fucking Luwin, like, you're impeding our hero here. And I really like the way he does that because we've come to trust Luwin. Yeah, in this chapter, I found myself annoyed with him. And, like, kind of like, you're being a dickhead. Like,
he's also so distracted throughout a lot of the chapter.
That's it. He's not taking him seriously. He's not listening. And then Osha kind of reminds him at the end of the chapter.
You put it into those words. It reminds me similar to Grandmaster's treat Citadel, like, working there. Like, just so, shut the fuck up. Like, who's you, whatever. Like, I'm busy.
Your opinion's not valid.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, bringing it back to the current conversation, Bran says he was down there last night in the crypts. I talked to him. And so Luwin kind of sighs and says, stubborn boy, would you like to go down and see? And Bran says, I can't. Hodor won't go down. Dancer's too big to fit.
That's not what I asked you, boy.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so they summon Osha, and she's a badass bitch.
She's tall and tough and uncomplaining.
She ain't scared of no crypts.
I live my life beyond the walls. A hole in the ground won't fret me none, my lords. So, she doesn't give a shit.
She's awesome.
So, Bran calls Summer to him as Osha lifts him up, and she carries him across the yard and down to the cold vault under the earth. And Luwin is leading with a torch. Bran had only barely minded that Osha was carrying him in her arms.
Yeah, he kind of thinks about, like, her faithfulness to the house so far. Like, that ever since she's been here, she's been pretty great.
It was Rodrik who ordered her chains struck off her wrists because she had proven her loyalty. She had served faithfully so far, but she is still manacled at the ankle to show that she's not wholly trusted yet. But it doesn't really impede her movement. She can get around. She can do stairs.
Man, I love Rodrik.
I really do like the absolutely.
The northern. He's got that northern honor. You were a wildling. You weren't. You weren't against the black or anything like that. You were born. You came down. You didn't actually kill anybody or steal anything. Like, you're serving your time.
She's not trying to plot or escape or. She's accessed like a confidant from Bran and helped him out. So, Rodrik saw that, struck her, gave her a little bit of trust, a little leeway. And so, Rodrik, Bran could not, he's trying to recall the last time he had come down here. And he thinks it was before.
I'm wondering if he's not recalling the exact same scenario that I think it was Arya.
The scary.
Where they pretended that they were the ghosts.
I think it was Jon, wasn't it?
It was Jon who was dressed up as the ghost, but Robb led him down there and Bran and Rickon.
I that's the feeling I got too. But he thinks of the last time. It was certainly before, which, as we've said,
the fall.
Before is how he distinguishes his fall. And it was playing with Jon and Rickon and Arya and Sansa and Robb and So, yeah, he kind of wishes they were there now because they might help the vault not seem so fucking terrifying.
And Summer stalks ahead.
Yeah.
And growls.
Yeah.
And
creeps back, baring his teeth. And
so we know that he's likely sensing Shaggy Dog.
Well, even Osha seems uncomfortable.
Yeah, and she's misheartened.
I don't know that it's Summer sensing Shaggy, because why would he have that reaction to his brother? Like, online.
I think more like hearing. He knows that there's something down there. Right now, and that's about it.
I don't. But Osha's
Rickon sobbing or something.
Osha's eyeing the old Stark statues, and she says, "Grim folk." And Bran whispers, "The kings of winter."
Winter's got no king. If you'd seen it, you'd know that, summer boy. I quoted that because I just like the way that she put those two words together, summer boy, because we think of it immediately as, he hasn't seen a winter. But
direwolf.
He is summer boy. Like, he's the green seer that's going to be warging into summer so often.
I also like the sort of the play, because we know in the show we get the face of the others, the Night King. And she's saying, winter has no king, boy. This is just a force. This is a presence. This isn't something being led. This just is. And I also like the fact that Bran whispers the kings of winter, because talking too loudly here felt wrong.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, if you've ever just been in a creepy place, you get that feel, talking too loud, think something might hear you and bring it,
So now, and I also want to just kind of remind that during some of Ned's chapters, way back when he had thought of that, that wintry prison in the crypts of Winterfell, and he often thought about the
frozen hell,
the frozen hell of Winterfell crypts, and all these different just deep, scary things that almost seemed like he was afraid of a magic tied to it in some way. To me, anyway.
And so Luwin says they were the kings in the north for thousands of years, hard men for a hard time. Come, and he strides off down the vault. And so we get the description that the vault was cavernous, longer than Winterfell itself. And Jon had told Bran that there were deeper and darker vaults beneath, of older kings buried. And Summer refused to move from the steps, even as Osha followed Luwin with Bran in her arms.
So, holy fuck, that's huge.
Yeah, longer than Winterfell itself. So they're going out under the walls a little bit to walk this length. And there's layers under that. And as we know, some are collapsed. Yeah, supposedly.
Massive.
And so, there's the crypts are important. There's no way they cannot be.
It's crazy. So, as they're walking,
Luwin bids Bran to, do you remember your histories, he asks. Tell Osha who these men are and what they did.
So, Bran thinks the Maester had told him the stories. And Old Nan had made them come alive.
Old Nan.
So I really like that. He knew the information from Maester Luwin.
Luwin lectured him.
But Nan knew the stories too. And she told the stories. She didn't just, lecture them to him. And so he says, that one is Jon Stark. When the Sea Raiders landed in the east, he drove them out and built the castle at White Harbor. His son was Rickon Stark, not my father's father, but another Rickon. He took the neck away from the Marsh King and married his daughter. Theon Starks, the real thin one with the long hair and the skinny beard. They called him the Hungry Wolf because he was always at war. That's A. Brandon, the tall one with the dreamy face. He was Brandon the Shipwright because he loved the sea. There's a bunch of other ones listed here, so we're probably not going to go through everyone. Rodrik Stark, who won the Bear Island and gave it to the Mormonts, and Cregan Stark, who faced Prince Aemon, some big names there. But they finally come down to Rickard Stark, his grandfathers. And to either side is Brandon Stark and Lyanna Stark, which we learn, or have known, but they technically shouldn't have a statue here.
Yes.
This is supposed to be for lords and kings of Winterfell. But there they are.
Ned Stark loved them so. I like it's noted that as they get closer to these statues that a sadness starts to fill Bran, as these are the histories that affect him now as we come to the end of the line of the Stark. line that's relevant to Bran, so a sadness starts to fill him. And Osha points out that the maid is a fair one. Speaking of Lyanna's tomb now.
And Bran explains her history with how she was betrothed to Robert, but then kidnapped by Rhaegar and murdered and raped and all that.
Robert fought a war to win her back. He killed Rhaegar on the Trident, but Lyanna died, and he never got her back anyway.
Do you think... this one's hard for me. Now, I don't know the exact history on Rickon Stark and whether he was able to be returned after being burned alive, if there was anything that actually came back. But I almost feel like Lyanna, if Rhaegar's dead, that he might be in there as well.
In
Lyanna's with her.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I could see his harp being in there. I could see a lot of things. A lot of people think his harp is down in or his bones might be in another part of the crypts.
But there's so much craziness
Osha
here.
says, a sad tale, but those empty holes are sadder. Which, to me, was one of the biggest lines in the chapter, because essentially, I think that line was for Bran. Like, it's the empty holes there for Lord Eddard and his family that are yet to be filled.
That are going to be even worse.
That are, like, the sad ones, because they're there waiting for you.
Yeah,
like,
those are yours.
And so, I just really like that line. And then... Luwin points out Lord Eddard's tomb and says, when his time comes, this is where he'll be interred. Is this where you saw him in your dream, Bran?
So, and Bran kind of tells him yes, but at the same time, he feels like a chill up his spine.
Yeah, the memory made him shiver.
And he also thinks, did I hear something? And so that's what, like, obviously, I think that's the scuffling of Rickon and Shaggy Dog. But he tells him, hold on, before we go on, because this is, I have a weird, odd little theory, and then I have another one later as well. But, so my odd little theory is I think that the dream that Bran had with Ned in the crypts, I don't think it was just a conversation saying farewells. I think Ned was the white that Jon faced and dreams about as well. The memory makes him shiver. It was more disturbing than any other dream he had ever seen. And Jon thinks of how disturbing it is watching his father's face melt. Oh,
I think it's a white Ned that he's dreaming that same thing Jon is dreaming of.
So I do think that it's farewells.
I think there's farewells had, but as a white Ned.
It's saying, it wish it had the time to talk to Jon. That there's important stuff with Jon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I definitely think that's what got Rickon so upset, was him saying, I'm not coming back, boy. Like, goodbye. This is the last you'll ever see me. And yeah, if it's that white one doing that, in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It was the shiver that got me. Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Why would his father, even saying farewell, like, it's sad, his father's dying, I know that, but, like, it would almost be like a clutching dread instead of a shiver of... Yeah. So it just, maybe he was seeing Ned as a white, that Jon's dreaming of now, putting on Othar's face.
Well, doesn't that lure him to the crypts?
Him in the crypts, yeah. And so, Luwin steps toward the open tomb of Lord Eddard and says, he's not here, nor will he be for many a year. Dreams are only dreams, child. And he thrusts his arm into the blackness of the tomb, as if into the mouth of some great beast.
Yeah, what the fuck, Martin?
The darkness sprang at him.
As you can see, it's quite empty, he says, as the darkness snarling.
Bran saw eyes like green fire, a flash of teeth, and fur as black as the pit around them.
Yeah, and so Shaggy Dog just grabs a hold of Luwin.
Yeah, the torch went flying, hitting the stone face of Brandon Stark and landing at his feet, flames licking up his legs.
Yep.
So, here... And this is where things get a little odd, because you and I talked about it, discussed.
Quick history.
We believe this is an example of the unreliable narrator that Martin uses sometimes, where people get things wrong, because Bran, in giving the history, quotes that his grandfather, Lord Rickard Karstark, was beheaded by the Mad King. That's not the history that we are usually given.
As far as we're aware... Lord
Rickard
Stark was donned in his steel armor and burned alive.
Suspended over a pit.
Yeah, by Tyrashi. It was lit by a Tyrashi.
A pyromancer lit the thing and
burned him alive.
Brandon Stark was held by a Tyroshi noose.
That was a
strangulation device.
A trap where they put a sword in front of him that he could cut the device off with, but it was just out of his reach where he strangled himself.
And he had to watch his father burn alive, and then he strangled himself to death.
But yeah, so Bran
I believe, gets it wrong in quoting that Lord Rickon was beheaded by Mad King Aerys. He was burned alive. So either...
Do you think Ned never told them
That's
the
what I'm wondering,
truth?
Is maybe if it was just, he was beheaded. Same thing with Brandon. They were just killed by the Mad King. Like, that could be it. But
it's funny that if he was given that false information,
we get the true image in the torch,
right?
Where
that's
the symbolism of, and it's not Brandon who burned, but the flames licking up the legs.
Get the actual
essentially
fire
is how Lord Rickon was lowered into this fire pit, slowly burning from the legs up. And so, I believe we got a little example of the unreliable narrator there.
But it's neat that we also got the real truth with the flames imagery there as well.
Yeah, and so Luwin's struggling with the direwolf. One hand is beating at the muzzle, the other hand is locked in its jaws.
And Bran calls out to Summer for help.
Yeah.
And Summer goes and tackles Shaggy Dog down, and they start wrestling.
Yeah, they're wrestling.
What's her face? Osha. She goes over, runs over to help Luwin.
Leans Bran against Rickard's Stone Wolf, which I don't know why I thought was significant, but I did. Apparently, enough to note it.
I guess.
And she turns and helps Luwin to his feet. His arm is torn and bloodied. And a small voice calls for Shaggy. And Rickon is suddenly standing in the mouth of Father's tomb. And Shaggy Dog broke off from Summer and bounded to Rickon's side.
Yes. Now, I think this next part is important because he starts yelling at Luwin to leave his father alone, back the fuck off, which is mainly, I think, because he heard Luwin saying, your father's not here. Your father's not. There's nobody here. You don't. And I think it's important because Luwin's going to say that Shaggy Dog can't leave and needs to be chained up because normally he was. We find out that Rickon had freed Shaggy Dog because Shaggy Dog doesn't like to be chained up. And Luwin's argument is because he's already attacked certain people, and it's only a matter of time before he kills someone. I don't think Shaggy Dog has just attacked people. It's always been somebody that
is upsetting Rickon.
Rickon's scared of or upset at. And so, shut the fuck up, Luwin. Like, that's that, I think, your point that you made earlier, where we're like, just shut up, Luwin. No.
Well, we have the perspective from these kids with these wolves. We trust the wolves, just like the kids do.
Right,
so we understand that if Shaggy Dog's doing something, it's probably to protect Rickon or keep Rickon safe. But, so Rickon is telling Luwin to leave his father be, and Bran says that father's not here, and he says, yes, he is. I saw him last night. And Bran asks, in your dream?
Boom!
And Rickon nods and says that he is coming home now, just like he promised. And Bran had never seen Maester Luwin look so uncertain before. And so Osha grabs the torch, and the black soot stains went up both of Brandon's likeness legs, which again, the imagery there. And Luwin says, the beast is supposed to be chained in the kennels. And Rickon pats Shaggy's bloody muzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I let him loose. He doesn't like chains.
Nope.
And Bran just kind of sighs and says, will you come with me, Rickon? And he says, no, I like it here.
And Bran steps up, man.
Well, Bran says, it's dark and cold here. And Rickon says, I'm not afraid. I'm waiting for father. And Bran says, well, then we'll wait together, you and I. Like, we'll do this, we'll wait with our wolves, we'll go up into the Maester's Tower, and we'll chill. And before we get to Luwin, this is my other more serious theory. Rickon is the only Stark who likes the crypts and feels comfortable in them. Along with his wolf, apparently.
True.
Apparently, he wants to stay. He was just walking around in his father's black tomb with no torch. With just Shaggy Dog.
Dude.
With the green fire.
Yeah.
Hard men for hard times are in these crypts. And Rickon feels welcome. The wild...
He's going to be the king of the North?
He's the king of the fucking North.
Holy shit, dude.
He feels welcome down here because he is a hard, stark... wild man. He's grizzled. He's shaggy. He's And so he's wandering down here waiting for father because he's safe down here.
So, because I was just getting ready to mention that, full spoiler reread, we are fairly sure he's out at Skagos with Osha.
That's what we've been told at this point, yes.
Who's the person that's pushing their green sight the most right now? But Osha. Mm-hmm. Even in this chapter, once we get up to the tower, we'll see
he's going to come back Lord of the fucking Cannibals,
He's going to be, he's going to go handle some business. Him and Shaggy Dog are going to be fucking badass. Good job. I like the show. I liked the show. Rickon book is going to eat Ramsay the fuck alive. Yeah. If they ever even encounter. But, fuck.
That's it. He says it. He says, no, I don't want to go with you. I like it here. Every other Stark views this place with fucking terror. Even
Arya,
Ned Stark
had kind of developed, she talks her way out of
it's still that scary darkness.
Until she goes and trains at the House of Black and White, I don't expect her to be walking around the crypts of Winterfell without a torch, unfazed.
Yeah, no. Yes. Little Rickon, 4-year-old baby Rickon.
I like it. He was in here,
creeping around. He came stalking out of the darkness of his father's tomb. He was just down there.
Oh, hey, sup?
Yeah. And apparently, he had the dream last night. Has he been down there all day? Did he wake up last night after the dream and come down here? He has no fear of this place. So, and then I just thought of Luwin's description. This is a place for hard men of hard times. And hard times are a-coming. And Rickon's the only one of them that fucking...
Well, and technically speaking, makes sense. Bran goes up north beyond the wall, becomes the Three-Eyed Raven. He's not going to want that position.
Jon Snow is a Targaryen.
Arya's
faceless, loses her name.
Sansa's got Sansa's going on. Eerie stuff.
Eerie, fucking Lannister, and Winterfell.
And Bran, or Rickon Stark. He's going to come in and be the hardened grizzle.
That's it.
Riding a unicorn with fucking Shaggy Dog running beside.
What episode number is this? 65? 65. So 65, I'm calling it. The end of the book will be Bran Stark as the Three-Eyed Raven, Sansa Stark as Queen, Arya Stark as the Faceless Assassin, Rickon Stark as Lord of Winterfell, King of the North, Jon Snow as Aegon Targaryen, or whatever the fuck his name is, Targaryen, in exile in the Free Cities.
Or Beyond the Wall.
Yeah. And...
I'm on board with this whole...
Yeah, I feel like there's a role for each one, and this chapter to me felt like Rickon's chapter more than Bran's until the very end.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
And so I'm gonna stop gushing about that
because I really like it because he's got the green sight. He had the dream. He knows he starts crying when the bird lands with the news.
His dog has green fire eyes, dude. Yeah, that shine in
wild
this darkness.
Fire.
Yeah,
green wildfire. That's the name of the
green sight, the green it's so much. And so Bran steps up and says, we'll wait together, you, me, and the wolves. And Luwin says, you have a kind heart, I know what you're trying to do, but no, Shaggy Dog needs to be chained up because he's gonna kill someone. And Bran thinks the kill. They don't really say it out loud, but what he says is, he was not made for chains. We will wait in the tower, all of us. And Luwin says that is quite impossible. And Osha grins. The boy's the lordling here last I recall, as she scoops Bran up. The Maester's tower 'tis. And they head for the tower, with Luwin really having no choice. Bran coaxes Rickon into following as long as Shaggy Dog won't get chained up. And so they head up. And Luwin's tower is a cluttered mess of all.
Whatever.
And so Osha begins dressing his wound.
With him explaining what to do.
Yeah.
And so he says that he agrees that both the children having the same dream is odd.
It's odd.
But it's completely logical. It makes complete sense.
You're grieving for you miss your father. You're thinking of him. You're afraid for him. Fear does queer things to men's minds and makes them think weird thoughts. And so it's natural that you dream of him for missing him.
And then he says that Rickon is too young to understand, and Bran is too old to believe in such nonsensical dreams.
He's old enough to know that dreams are just dreams.
Just dreams. But
Osha
says,
girl.
Sometimes they are, but sometimes they are not. Fuck you, Luwin.
The children of the forest could tell you a thing or two about dreaming.
And Luwin starts talking shit.
Luwin says... The children live only in dreams now. That's it. That's true.
Yeah.
Like, they are the green seers.
They're
Their knowledge is in the werewoods.
Do you think he's just this ultra-aware fucking...
He is a three-eyed raven. Like, fucking Blood Raven is Luwin. That's the new one. No, I think it's... It's that deniability. He is such a... And I'll bring it back to Lost. He's a man of science. He is not a man of faith. And so, these are all dead legends to him.
And that's what's so funny,
But he does here soon admit that magic was real.
Yeah.
That they did all they did with magic.
And how
so
he
doesn't deny its existence.
Yeah.
But it's gone. It's dead. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I like that he, as much as he's denying it, he's still actually saying the truth about these creatures while using his logic.
Yeah, they only live in dreams
if
now.
you only knew how right you actually were.
They are so diminished that that's essentially true. That the green sight, these dreams, these visions that Bran is having are the only real way they can communicate this knowledge. And I think that that's significant in what we get here soon about the Isle of Faces.
Yeah.
And
well, so Bran once again mentions Old Nan, and he says that she knows some of the stories too. That the children knew the songs of the trees, that they could fly like birds and swim like fish.
The fish have scales.
And talk to the animals. They make music so beautiful you could cry.
Oh, it's the birds have scales and the fish take wing.
Do you think this has anything to do with Patchface?
I know. Oh. I do. I don't know what, but I absolutely feel like they're tied together.
I'm so glad.
Because the nomenclature, the language is so similar.
Yeah.
That was my first thought too.
I feel like that maybe that there's children.
But it's also warging. Like,
right.
They can fly up with the birds.
Right.
They can
swim with
the fish.
And so
in the sea.
I don't know if I want to say that there's not mermaids, but some underwaterly evolved children of the forest. Or if it's just that, referring to the fact that they can transform into, they could warg into fish and birds.
If you've ever read the Supplicants, and I know you've gone through some of them, that there is in this world evidence that there were creatures of intelligence that lived beneath the sea, and so that it's possible that Patchface is a fucking creature
communed
on a communed and sort of, because there's a theory that he wants to bring Shireen down beneath the waves so that the mer people can again have a bloodline that ties them to a king that they can then get it back, and so there's a ton of shit with Patchface. I do think it's
somehow
because it's tied back to the magic coming back in the world. I like also
though that we're only 8 chapters away from Patchface's introduction.
Yeah, exactly.
He's coming right now.
And we get the comet. We're getting all this right
at the end for the next book where it's coming. Mm-hmm. And Patchface's little thing with this right at the end. Like, I just felt like there's some kind of
And the next line, Luwin says, and they did all that with magic. And so, again, with Patchface, you've got to believe that there's something magical with that description.
Right. And so he says if only he had some of that magic now, he could heal himself way faster.
Yeah, he's being a cunt. And then essentially he says, take a lesson, Bran. A man who trusts in spells is dueling with a glass sword, as the children did. And so, essentially, and that's sort of the always the rule with magic. It's a double-edged sword. You're grasping a sword without a hilt. It will cut you if you don't learn to control it. I feel like in this universe it is more true than in any other fantasy realm I've ever read, especially with Bran and warging.
So here's the thing. It made me think of our D&D game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yay!
Because Glassstaff.
Oh. Damn it. God damn it. That is a nickname Nate's character. Wagons the Gnome, Druid, has acquired... Well, he's taken it for himself. And it's gained some renown. You're doing all right.
That's right.
Anyway, bringing it back to D&D.
Or to Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones,
away
Jesus.
From D&D.
Away from D&D. Yeah, and so... I think it's interesting. And it also made me think of the glass candles.
Yes.
That you can't grasp those at all without getting cut.
Yeah, so he kind of just stands up immediately, all of a sudden being done patched up, and shoots over to some jars. Mm-hmm. And he pulls out some, as we know, dragon glass arrowheads.
Which is what Osha names them as well, dragon glass.
But he corrects and says obsidian. And he says that they were forged in the fire of the gods far below the earth. Like, what the fuck does that... I mean, technically, I'm assuming it's just his way of describing it's the metals from the molten core of the earth, but he doesn't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But, is there more meaning to it?
I don't know.
Fuck.
Yeah, that it's such a intense description for how it's forged.
He says the children used to use it to hunt with. Swords made of these things. And Osha comments... They still do. Like, yeah, that's still what.
So Bran asks if he can keep one because they're so beautiful.
Beautiful.
And Luwin agrees, and Rickon says that he wants 4 because he's 4, which logic. And then Bran says, "Tell me about the children." And then it says, "It was important."
It was important.
That's just an aside in Bran's thought.
Bran thought, yeah, just tell me about the children, Bran said. And then it was important. Fuck.
What do you want to know? Everything.
Everything. Like, now, I know that's related to the children, but the power of that.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to know? Everything.
Everything. Yeah. That's essentially the like, you would expect that line to come from like a Littlefinger of like, what do you want, Littlefinger? Everything.
Everything.
Like,
What do you want to know? I want to know everything.
I want to know everything. And so Luwin gets pretty uncomfortable, and he says that they were the people of the Dawn Age, the very first, before kings and kingdoms. In those days, there were no castles or holdfasts, no cities, not so much as a market town to be found between here and the Sea of Dawn. There were no men at all, only the children of the forest dwelt in the lands we now call the Seven Kingdoms. They were a people dark and beautiful, small of stature, no taller than children even when grown to manhood. They lived in the depths of the woods, in caves and crannies and secret tree towns. Slight as they were, the children were quick and graceful. Male and female hunted together with weirwood bows and flying snares. Their gods were the gods of the forest, stream, and stone, the old gods whose names are secret. Their wise men were called greenseers and carved strange faces in the weirwoods to keep watch on the woods. How long the children reigned here, or where they came from, no man can know. And so we get a little more about how the first men arrived, and there was some warring, but eventually a peace was made and a pact was made on the Isle of Faces, and it was sealed where...
Well, because we also got a bit of the Arm of Dorne, and...
Yeah, they used the magic to shatter...
Dark magic was rumored to have been used
Dark
for that.
magic, supposedly.
But everything's evil.
And then the children agreed that the deep forests were theirs. The men could take everything else, but the forests were theirs, and they used the weirwood to... kind of keep.
And the Age of Heroes happened.
For
4,000 years there was peace until, and then he goes on to explain about these new men.
Well, yeah, because Bran says, but the children are all gone now, and Osha says that here they are, but north of the wall things are different.
Right.
That's where the children and the giants and the other old races all went. And Bran and Rickon want to know where they go.
Yeah, well, Luwin's pretty pissed about this.
Yeah.
Quit fucking filling their heads with fairy tales,
shit.
But yeah, Rickon's like, no, I want to hear. And so he explains about the Andals.
All was good with the pack. Yeah. Shit was good. People were living life. And then, these fair-haired Andals with their 7-pointed star and their 7 gods came over and just started fucking everything
with fire
up.
and steel.
Yeah, they slaughtered the children, knew it by the numbers,
and burned the forest,
the trees,
the
and the children fled to the north and were
Summer interrupts with a loud howl.
Shaggy Dog stands up, lifts his head, and joins his voice to his brother.
Bran knows it is coming.
They are coming, my lady.
Winter is coming.
It reminded me of Cat's chapter in the Whispering Wood. They're coming, my lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, dread fills him. He had known it, he realized, since the crow had led him down into the crypts to say farewell last night. The crow, he thought. The three-eyed crow. And the howling stopped suddenly as a raven landed on the sill, and Rickon began to cry. Bran grabbed him and hugged him tight.
Yeah, I mean, and right here is just again
they
showing
both know.
The green sight, the fact that they were told by Ned that he's not coming home. That this is I'm dead. Like, sorry. That's why I'm here, because I'm in the crypts. I'm dead. My spirit has come here. And so that's partially why I think that's what they were seeing is not necessarily that white, but like actually Ned.
Well, that's why I think it's disturbing, is because it was this conversation. It was farewells, but as this visage is melting. And so, but just for Bran, because, Rickon doesn't seem afraid.
Right.
Bran seems disturbed. He says it was the most disturbing dream he had had. And so, Luwin rises as if sleepwalking. And he goes over and gets the letter, noticing that the bird is pretty bloodied. It looks like it got attacked by an owl. I didn't know if that was significant, if the words of Ned's death getting
I was wondering
and bloodied,
if maybe it wasn't
to soil Ned's name essentially. Like his death, even his death letter is soiled in blood.
Right.
And so he gets the letter, and Bran shivers as Luwin unrolls it, and he asks, "What is it?" holding Rickon all the harder.
And Osha answers,
"Yeah,
you already know what it says."
And she says this not unkindly as she rests a hand on his head. She believes it. She knows the green sight. I'm sure she's experienced quite a few.
She's seen it before.
And so, you know what it is, Bran. You were just had us down in the crypts at your father's. Like, there's no way you're wrong about this at this point. And Luwin turns to them with tears in his eyes. And, "My lords," he said to the sons, "we shall need to find a stone carver who knew his likeness well." And that is the end of Bran's last chapter in the Game of Thrones.
Fuck.
And what a chapter it is, man. Because good goddamn.
Wow.
So, we get a lot of the green sight, a lot of the children of the forest. Ned's death, obviously, the news related to Winterfell. We get Rickon, as I've said, I believe, truly epitomizing the old kings of winter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
episodes, whatever, 65.
So, my inductees are Rickon fucking Stark, man.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Stalking 100%. Around in that darkness with just that wildfire green eyes as his light, because that takes more balls than I'll ever have in my fucking life.
Hell yeah.
And so, Rickon all the way. Totally. Although I really did like Bran in this chapter, except for the Hodor mule thing, because I really feel like that's his flaw. That's his. But I really like Bran's. Because Bran does become assertive. I want to know everything. Tell me about the children of the forest. We are going to the Maester's Tower.
It very much does seem like a young Brendan Rivers to me. Just exuding that, do this,
the
do
young
that.
lord, and he's starting to learn he can order people. And
right.
Osha especially kind of played into that.
Pushing that along.
But I don't induct Bran, I induct Rickon, so that's mine.
Rickon's your inductee?
Yeah, Rickon, of course.
So I'm inducting Old Nan.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, she really sets the tone for a lot of his history on the children. She makes the stories
come to life,
and that's what it is. Like, she's always references just having, even if nothing she's saying is accurate, it is fairy tales and shit, like, what a great fucking storyteller to have around. That's fucking sick.
See, but what she's saying, like, isn't necessarily true of what we know, that they flew with the fish and swam with the birds. Like, they can warg into stuff. So, she's not wrong.
Well, and that's it.
And even Simon Stareyes, when Bran brings that up, and old Nan says there was a fighter, who could use a staff. Like, I feel like there's so much more fantastical element that old Nan added, but Bran is aware he was talking to Luwin, so he's only presenting, like, the facts.
Yeah, not the fact that because I actually misread it at first when it said that he could spin the staff in his hands and chop 2 men in half.
In half, yeah.
I read it as he could spin on his hands and twirl the staff and chop. And that's how I think Old Nan would tell it anyway. He's spinning up on his hand.
Spinning like a top on his fucking legs out, But, Old Nan, I love it,
So we did get a write-in for inductees from our friend in France, Julian. He says, Ciao, amici. Pleasant chapter where I get to know the concept of Green Seer a little bit better. We definitely
one of
got
my
some
favorite concepts.
There was actually one thing before I go too much further, just because he reminded me of the Green Seers. There was a point when Luwin was explaining the Isle of the God of Faces there, and that this sacred order of Green Seers was formed.
There to protect the.
Do you think any of them are still...
Oh, yes, I do.
Dude.
Yes, I do.
Like, holy shit, that Sacred Order of Green Seers sounds like the coolest shit I've ever fucking heard.
There, potentially.
Howland Reed.
Fucking Benjen Stark. Cold Hands.
Garrett
is fucking there.
Everybody's on the Sacred Order of Green Hand. Anyway, Julian says, I like how George R.R. Martin used the narration well to bring a bit of history and context about the magic, the sight through dreaming, and so on. Knowing how it will affect Bran later on, it's pretty well played. I'm sure you will pick up on the something about Jon that Eddard is sad
There's something about Mary.
There's something about something there. I don't know what the fuck it is, but yeah, we see that. If he had to choose an inductee, he will bring Osha into the Brotherhood this time. She clearly knows, or at least understands, a lot about what the kids feel. The foreseeing dreams don't surprise her. Even more, when the Raven comes, she backs the kids' impression. fully aware the animal brings the news they fear they already know. They sure know their deal beyond the wall. Too bad nobody in the Seven Kingdoms considers them at their right value for now. Wink, wink. Good day to you both. Valar de Harris.
Thank you, Julian.
We love
that was
your
great.
ducky.
Actually, to your point, yeah, I really do. That's one of my favorite things that endears me most to Osha, is that to her, these kids' opinions and the things they say are valid. Like, she doesn't just write them off immediately because they're children. Because whatever's happened to her north of the wall, and I'm sure a lot of shit has, she's learned to kind of understand that there's shit you're not going to explain. There's forces that are at work that aren't explainable. And so these kids having dreams about their father dying is like
nowhere near the level of wild shit. Well, I really enjoy that. I guarantee she's seen giants.
Oh, yeah. At this, she has.
At no point is like, listen, Luwin, I have fucking stood face to face with a giant. She doesn't try to force him to believe it's whatever.
But never once does she ever say to Bran that dreams are dreams. Mm-mm. She's always validating and saying,
listen,
like, yeah, I understand, like, you're worried about your father and stuff, but, like, let's go down and see it, yada, yada, yada. And then here she says, some dreams are important and some aren't. Some are just dreams, but, there is the chance that they're more than something. And so that's, I think, what endears Asha to us the most, is that she listens to Bran and agrees.
Yeah.
So, word, if you would like to write into us, let us know your thoughts, feelings, opinions, or inductees, please do so.
You could do that all over the place. We have an email you can reach us at, withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. Zach's on Instagram @mannerswithout. I'm on Twitter @mannerswithout. He's on Twitter @carstark92.
Boop, boop.
We also have a Facebook, facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast. If you would like access to our private Facebook group,
sensual,
you can join our Patreon, patreon.com/withoutmanners, where we also have bonus episodes.
Yes.
Currently up there, we have Mercy and Theon, and coming very, very soon, if it's not already up at this point, Victarion. Sample Wins a Win chapters. Go check them out. They're good stuff.
Yeah. Any rate and reviews you guys could leave us would be much appreciated, as those also help us out.
On the podcast platforms.
And, join us next episode. We'll be reading Sansa's last chapter, Sansa 6 in A Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And, again, dealing with some more fallout for the children of the death of their father.
Yeah,
and
so this
Sansa,
has been boom, boom.
who I think really has the worst of it out of the children, besides maybe Arya at this point, she's going to kind of isolate herself and give in to the darkness.
Yeah.
And so, poor Sansa. But join us next time for that, because I'll probably get a laugh or two out of it.
We usually do. We kind of shot him for it. We laugh at the expense of Sansa. It's
True,
not cool.
Yeah.
But it's just her naivety, I suppose, we're laughing at.
Until then, just remember that a man who duels with magic. I don't remember the
duels with a glass sword.
That was it. Valar de Harris.
Peace!